So we got major. That's your bass, right? So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. There's 2 octaves, right? So minor, relative minor is going to start there. So if this is C, that's going to be D, E, F, G, A, right? So A minor and C minor, same thing, right? A minor and C major, excuse me. A minor and C major, same notes. So you count up to the 6th. Now, if we start on A minor, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, right? We count up to the 3rd. Okay, so now when you get to major, here's what you get. Whole step, half step, whole step link, then whole step, half step. That's the fixed formula for a major scale, right? But if we keep going, if we treat 8 as 1 again, we go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. We're going to do this again. We're going to go whole step, half step, whole step link, whole step, half step. So that's starting again, the major scale. Oops. Starting again. So you see the formula repeats. You guys see that okay? Okay. Now, Devontae, I got the top of your head in the camera, and there's a big, huge picture of your ceiling. Can you tilt your camera down a little bit? There we go. A little better. Okay. Not that I object to the top of your head. It's kind of a nice top of your head, actually. It's very fashionable. All right, so you see the formula there. Now, what happens if we start on 6? If we start on 6 and go to 6 like that for relative minor, we get whole step, half step, whole step. See? See how that works? And then whole step. And then we got half step, whole step, whole step. So this becomes a formula for minor. Whole step, half step, whole step link, half step, whole step, whole step. Now, do you see how by just changing the scale and sliding it over like that, it changes the order of the whole steps and half steps? You guys can see that now, right? Okay, so when we take this, if we start on C, that becomes A, right? But if we take this and we start on any note, like if we start on F, let me use a different color. So on F, and we just spell it out alphabetically, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. And then we plug in our minor formula, whole, half, whole step link, half, whole. Now we just plugged in our minor formula. So now let's modify the notes. F to G, that's a whole step. But now to make it minor, we need a half step between G and A. So that has to become A flat, doesn't it? And then now we need a whole step from A flat. So that needs to be B flat. There, see, doesn't it? B flat to C is a whole step. Now we need a half step from C to D, so we got to make that D flat. And then we need a whole step D flat to E flat. And then a whole step. So our F minor scale has 4 flats in it, right? So the F major scale's got 1 flat, right? Our famous freeway salute. But the F minor scale, by plugging in that minor formula, it gives it 4 flats. So let's take a look at this. Okay, now we got this. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Microphone's not crapping out?
Nope.
How about this? This is my radio announcer voice. Okay, so if we got F major, oh man. I started moving my mouse and it banged into my keyboard. Okay, so here's F major, right? So we get our scale F, G, A, B flat. What I'm going to do is show you this. Whenever you're writing stuff out for musicians, you got a B flat in the key signature right here. But sometimes composers like to put a what's called a courtesy flat to remind the musician, hey, buddy, we got a flat here. Don't forget. You don't need to do it. Everybody's supposed to know that the key signature takes care of it. But I'm going to throw this in here anyway just so it makes it a little more clear. F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. There's our F major scale, right? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Now our F minor scale, we just learned that it had 4 flats, correct? You with me on that, Devante? Okay, so here's our flats. 4 flats are going to follow always B, E, A flat, D flat. Those are going to be your 4 flats. It's the same key as A flat major, but we're starting on F. So now we're going to go F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. So we're going to go B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. There is our, is that right? There is our 4 flats. There are our 4 flats. That sounds weird. There are. Sounds like a pirate. R. There are flats. Okay, so there's our 4 flats. And then now, if we analyze that, this would be 1. That'd be 2. Here we got a flat 3, right? You guys with me? There's our 4. There's our 5. And here we got our flat 6. And here we got our flat 7. So these are the 2 main formulas for major and minor. We have major and F minor. Okay, so now the traditional way of looking at this is to start with this. We've got the relative minor, and the formula for the relative minor causes the 3rd to be flatted, the 6, and the flat 7, because we transposed all the whole steps and half steps with the same starting note, F major and F minor. All right, so now there's a couple of other minor scales involved. If we have F minor, it's got a flat 3, a 4, a flat 6, and a flat 7. We have another one called F harmonic minor and F melodic minor. So let me start over with this. Here we have 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, and 1, or call that 8 if you want. Okay, so there's our F minor. Now, the other minor scales are slightly different. So the first one we have is F. Boy, unresponsive software, eh? F melodic minor. So the melodic minor scale only has a flat 3 in it. So we count 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so we've only got one modification here, this one here, in a melodic minor scale. And the harmonic minor scale has 2. So it goes F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. So we got a flat 3, a regular 4, and then a flat 6. So you got a 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7, 1. So here's our mods in the harmonic minor scale. Okay, so that's the traditional way of looking at minor, classical music theory, by taking the natural minor scale. They call this a raised 6 and a raised 7. Now the correct word is raised, not sharped. We don't use the word sharped. Raised, because we're taking a flat 6 and raising it. That doesn't mean sharpening it. It means taking a flat 6 and raising it up a half step. And then for the harmonic minor scale, we've just got a raised 7. So that's a traditional way of looking at it. And even more than that is the way they look at it is when you are ascending, we raise the 6 and 7. And when you're descending, you lower the 6 and 7. That's the traditional classical way of looking at the melodic minor scale. So what we get is this. We get F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E, F, E flat, D flat, C, B flat, A flat, G, F. This is a traditional melodic minor scale. So that was in place till about the probably around Beethoven's time, the late 1700s, early 1800s. And the composers were the ones who, they didn't do away with it, but they backed away from it, right? They just sort of, they left the melodic minor the same, going up or down. And in jazz, they don't use two forms. They just use one form. Jazz just uses this one form here for melodic minor. So when you say melodic minor to a jazz musician, they only know 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. They don't flat the notes descending it and call it the same scale. If you flat those notes, it becomes a relative minor scale again, a natural minor scale. So that's a traditional way of looking at the melodic minor. Is you take a natural minor scale, traditional method, we take the natural minor scale, and that equals a flat 3, flat 6, and flat 7. And then what we do is we raise the 6, and we raise the 7th. So what we get from that would be a flat 3, a 6, and a 7. And they call that the ascending melodic minor. So that's the original way of looking at minor scales. Is you start with your relative minor scale, which is a natural minor, and then from there they call it raising the 6 and raising the 7. And the harmonic minor, you don't raise the 6. You have a flat 6. So harmonic minor It's a flat 3, flat 6, and 7. So you see where these are raised up. This is a raised 6, that's a raised 7, and here's a raised 7. So that's the traditional way of explaining the minor scales. And then what happened was around the 20th century, a lot of theory guys came out, tons of theory people came out. And when jazz arrived on the scene in the 1920s and 30s and 40s, and mostly the 1950s, people were like, this way of explaining it is for the birds, man. Let's do it simpler than this. So what we're looking at now in a more modern sense is we take everything that exists as a modification of a major scale. And that's it. Everything's a modification of a major scale. So here we go. So we take this. Red. Okay. Got my Alex Jones gravelly voice. Here we go. If we're on F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. There's our good old F major scale, right? Now, we have, the way we look at it now, we got major, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So there's no modifications there, right? Melodic minor is our first modification. 1, 2, we got a flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And harmonic minors are our second modification. So we got 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7, 1. And then natural minors are 3 modifications. So we got 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. So this has 0 mods. This is 1. This has got 2 flatted notes in it, and that's got 3 flatted notes. So here they are. You got a flat 3. Oops. You got a flat 3 on all 3 of them, right? And then here we got a flat 6 on both of those. And then here we got a flat 7 here. So 1 mod, 2 mods, 3 mods. That's the modern way of looking at it. And it's easier to remember. You take a major scale, you flat the 3, you get a melodic minor. You take a major scale, you flat the 3, and you flat the 6, we get a harmonic minor. You take a major scale, you flat the 3, you flat the 6, you flat the 7, that becomes natural minor or your relative minor. And they also call that the Aeolian Mode. Does that make any sense to you guys? So the modern way, it just seems more logical than the traditional way. Seems kind of convoluted, to say the least, right? But that's what's taught across North America, in Europe, Canada, wherever, the traditional way. And people will argue about the minor scale and say, no, it's got a raised 6 and raised 7. Okay, well, why do you have to raise it? Why don't you just leave it alone? Huh? Why don't we just take these notes here? Let's use yellow. Why don't we just leave those alone? Leave that one alone. We're not raising anything, are we? We're just leaving it alone, right? So you're going to find out, if you stick with music theory, that academics will argue to the end of time, and you got two camps. You got the classical camp and you got the jazz camp. The classical guys will argue that it's a race 6 and race 7, and the jazz guys will go like this. Yeah, whatever, man. You got the money? Is he bringing the fucking money, man? Yeah, all right, cool. End of story, right? The jazz guys, they don't want to overcomplicate stuff because they're trying to collect a check. They don't want to cause any confusion to the guy who signs the check, so they can get paid for their gig. All right. So the melodic minor scale is a flat 3, and harmonic minor a flat 3 and a flat 6. Natural minor flat 3, flat 6, and flat 7. Okay, so that's the core. Just the core of the, God dang it, minor scale. That's the core of the minor scales. These three are the core. Those three are the basis of all the minor scales. Melodic minor, harmonic minor, natural minor. That's it. Memorize that. That's the core of the minor scales. Now, after that, there's a lot more things you can do. Okay, let's take a look at some of those. Now, you've got melodic minor. One, two, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Now, you can go in this direction. You can go harmonic minor, which is again 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7, and 1. Now, from there, people nowadays, you can go in a couple different directions. It doesn't necessarily have to go to natural minor. One way would be go to natural minor, which would be one, two, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. And then the other way, we could take a harmonic minor scale and leave it intact. 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7, 1. And what the more modern composers and soloists, improvisers do is they will take that harmonic minor scale and they will sharp the 4. So that's called Hungarian minor. So that's one direction you can go. And then you can get even more crazy and go 1, 2, flat 3. We just sharp the 4 here. Sharp 4, 5, flat 6, 7, 1. Now we can flat the 2. And people call that Romanian minor. also called Gypsy Minor. That's got that real sour flat 2 in there. So that's one way you can go off a Hungarian minor. Harmonic minor, you can go Hungarian minor or you can go natural minor. Now, there's another in-between thing here. If you take melodic minor and you go 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, just do a flat 7, that's called the Dorian scale or the Dorian mode. So here's what we get. We get Dorian, melodic minor, harmonic minor, natural minor, and then the sour ones. These are the sour ones here. They sound like Dracula scales, okay? Dorian. Now, Dorian is a really popular scale in modern times because it's a real sort of bland sounding scale. It's not sour like harmonic minor. Dorian sounds kind of mellow. However, melodic minor, the traditional melodic minor, has that natural 7, or if you will, a raised 7 in it, and that's a raised 7. That 7 is called a leading tone, and it always wants to resolve to the 1. And then it adds a sourness here by this interval here. That's 1 1/2 steps. So that big 1 1/2 step leap gives it that Transylvania effect. And so you have that there and you have that there. And additionally, you have this really sour flat 2 here. So that's a real sour sounding scale. And, so some people use it here and there. This is a more modern jazz way of looking at minor scales. So you have melodic minor, you can go in another direction. From melodic minor, you can go here, or you can go here. From harmonic minor, you can go here, or you can go here, and from there you can go there. Screenshots! Okay, so there's a lot of minor scales, There's a lot of minor scales. Now, if you go to what we call jazzbooks.com. Right there, jazzbooks.com. That's a big, huge, popular website. And we got scale syllabus. Free jazz scale syllabus. Here we go. This is a free sheet that you can get off jazzbooks.com, and it categorizes all the scales. We got major, we've got the dominant 7, minor, Dorian, half diminished, diminished 8-tone scale. We've got all these scales that people use in modern music. So here's what they do in classical music. Traditional harmony. They'll cover this one, that one. Um, well, sometimes you'll see a whole tone scale. All right. So there's your scale choices there. We can keep going. We've got melodic minor. See, they put the word ascending there. Harmonic minor. You'll see Phrygian and Aeolian. So the bandwidth on classical theory is really narrow compared to the rest of these scales that are available on a very common jazz website. So that's my point, is that, all these guys that are arguing to death about this scale here, this melodic minor, they'll spend 6 hours arguing about how it's a raised 6th and a raised 7th, but they're missing all these other scales that are available to jazz guys, rock guys, jazz guys. They never look into it. Stuff's not really used in classical music. The classical compositions up to about the 20th century, I'd say in the late 1800s, you have Debussy using this one and Scriabin using that one. And then we have major pentatonic has been, major pentatonic is used. Whole tone scales, Debussy. Minor, Dorian can be used. Melodic minor and harmonic minor. Phrygian Phrygian was used in Spain for Spanish flamenco guitar. Flamenco music uses a Phrygian mode all the time. So that's been around for a few hundred years. But this is like the late 1800s. These scales started getting introduced. Okay? Before that, classical music, what do we got? We got major. We take a dominant 7th, a Mixolydian. And then we've got, well, there we go again, dominant 7th. That's a repeat. That's it. Then here we got our minors. Use blue for minor. We're using this one. Whoops. And that one. And melodic minor. So the bandwidth is really narrow for classical music. They don't really use a whole lot of different scales until you get to the latter part of the 1800s. And then you've got these composers, Claude Debussy, Alexander Scriabin. Scriabin was from Russia. Have you heard of Scriabin? Okay, Scriabin and Debussy were more experimental. And then in the 20th century, you had a lot more experimentation going on, quite a bit more, to where no two composers sounded alike. Whereas in the Renaissance, all the composers sounded alike. In the Baroque, majority of them sounded alike. In the classical period, they had some good differentiation between composers, between compositions. But in the Romantic period, the compositions sounded pretty different than each other. The composers sounded a lot different than each other. And in the 20th century, no two composers sounded alike. Everybody could do whatever they wanted, right? Okay, so will you guys go ahead and get this sheet for yourself? Jazzbooks.com.
Yeah, I just got it.
Okay. Now the jazz nomenclature, I think that's chords, yeah. That's chords. And that's a pretty good one. I have a better one. I have a better one on my website. PB Guitar Studio. So PB Guitar Studio is my website. We got PDF files here. Free guitar lesson PDFs right here. We scroll down here. We got where is it? Chord forms. Under nomenclature of chords right here. This is a better one than the Aebersold one. It's more thorough. It's got the chord symbols and the formulas. So see if you could download that one as well, okay, guys?
How
Okay.
far did you scroll down for that one?
Okay, so here let me do it again. pbguitarstudio.com. Lesson PDFs. First one, free guitar lesson PDFs. We got grid sheets, tab sheets, blank sheets, basics, guitar chord forms right here. And then right here.
All right, just got it.
And it's a 2-page thing. Okay, and then I would suggest this one too. Basic chord families. Okay, so my point is on these minor scales, we got relative minor. We learned about that. And you know how to get that. You go to the 6th, right? So we could call that the 3, 4, 5, 6 method. This is fourths. That's flats. Fifths is sharps. Sixth is relative minor. And then go up relative major. This one's a little confusing here. If you're in C, that's 6 right there. That's relative minor, right? But E is not relative major. What that means is if you go to the C minor scale, or if we go to, let's make it easy. If we go to the relative minor scale, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. There's our 3 right there. So you go to relative minor and you go up 3, and that's your relative major. Are you following this okay? Okay. Okay, so for minor scales, for practical purposes, we got major, relative minor, melodic minor, harmonic minor, and then the exotic ones, on another hand, Hungarian minor, Romanian minor, and we have another minor it's not exotic, it sounds great. It's the Dorian scale. And the Dorian scale is just a fantastic minor scale. The guy who uses there's 2 guys that use the Dorian scale a lot. One is Miles Davis, and believe it or not, the second guy who uses it all the time is Carlos Santana. Have you guys been familiar with both those names?
I know Miles Davis.
You don't know Santana?
Nah.
Okay. Santana is a rock guitarist from the 60s all through modern times, and he uses the Dorian scale all the time. Okay, so now we're running out of time here. So I want to continue with harmonizing the minor scales on Friday. But I wanted you guys to be real clear on the idea of calling a raised 6 and a raised 7 as opposed to calling it a sharp 6 or a sharp 7. The terminology makes a big difference. When you say sharp to 7, you're taking a 7 and sharpening the 7, which means you're turning it into a 1, aren't you? Which is not what we want to do. If you take a 6 and sharp it, well, then you're turning it into a flat 7, right? Or a sharp 6, an augmented 6. That terminology is used in classical music. There are what are called augmented sixth chords. That's a big chapter that we're going to cover. But anyway, thanks you guys for showing up today. I really appreciate it. This class, if you have friends who are interested in it and just sitting in and auditing the class, it'd be great to have more people in the class. I won't say no to anybody who wants to audit the class. Get more people in here if you have anybody in mind. Anyway, we will see you guys on Friday.
Thank you, Professor. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, see y'all later.